Hello everyone, welcome to SUNDOS Communication. My name is Adenaike Janet. Today I'll be sharing a story that is often regarded as the epitome of racist colonial exploitation and the dehumanization of the black people. I'll be sharing the story of the African woman who was used as a circus animal across Europe, Sara Bartman. Sara was a hoi-hoi woman who was exhibited as a freak show attraction in the 19th century across Europe under the name of Hottentot Venus. The women were exhibited for their stereotypic body type, which was uncommon in the Western Europe and perceived as at that time as a curiosity type, but became subject of scientific interest as well as erotic projection. She is thought to have suffered from lipedema, which is a condition that is almost exclusively found in women and results in the enlargement of both legs due to the deposit of fat under the skin. Sara Bartman was born to a hoi-hoi family in the vicinity of the Kandebo in what is now the Eastern Cape of South Africa, which was then the Dutch Cape Colony and a British colony by the time she was an adult. Her birth name is unknown. Her surname has also been spelled wrongly. While some call her Bartman or Batman, her mother died when she was an infant and her father was later killed by Bushmen, San people, while he was driving cattle. Sara spent her childhood and teenage years on Dutch European farms. She went through puberty rites and kept the small tortoise shell necklace, most likely given to her by her mother until her death in France. In the year 1790, a free black designation for individuals of enslaved descent trader named Peter Caesars, also recorded as Caesar, met her and encouraged her to move to Cape Town. Records do not show whether she was made to leave or went willingly, but she lived in Cape Town for at least 2 years, working in a household as a washwoman, a nursemaid, first for Peter Caesars, then in the house of a Dutchman in Cape Town. She finally moved to be a wet nurse in the household of Peter Caesar's brother, Hendrik Caesars, outside of Cape Town, which is now the present-day Woodstock. There is evidence that she had 2 children, though both died as babies. She had a relationship with a poor Dutch soldier, Hendrik van Jorg, who lived in Hot Bay near Cape Town, but the relationship ended when his regiment left the Cape. Hendrik Caesars became to show her at the city hospital in exchange for cash, where Surgeon Alexandra Dunlop worked. Was a Scottish military surgeon in the Cape Slave Lodge, operated a side business in supplying showmen in Britain with animal specimens, and suggested that Sara travel to Europe to make money by exhibiting herself. She refused, but Dunlop persisted, and Bartman said she would not go unless Hendrik Caesars came too. He also refused, but he finally agreed in 1810 to go to Britain to make money by putting Sara Bartman on stage. The party left for London in 1810. It is unknown whether Bartman went willingly or was forced. A man called Henry Taylor took Bartman to France around September 1814. Taylor then sold her to a man sometimes reported as an animal trainer, S. Roos, but whose name was actually Jean Roos, and belonged to a ballet master who had been deported from the Cape Colony for seditious behavior. Roux exhibited her under more pressure conditions for 15 months at the Palais Royal in Paris. In France, she was in effect enslaved. In Paris, her exhibition became more clearly entangled with scientific racism. French scientists were curious about whether she had the elongated labia, which earlier naturalists such as Francois Levaillant had purportedly observed in Corsan at the Cape. French naturalists, among them Georges Cuvier, head keeper of the Menangre at the Muséum National d'Histoire Naturelle and founder of the discipline of comparative anatomy, visited her. She was the subject of several scientific paintings at the Jardin du Roi, where she was examined in March 1815 as naturalist. A younger brother of Georges reported she was obliging enough to undress and to allow herself to be painted in the nude. This was not really true, although by his standards she appeared to be naked. She wore a small apron-like garment which concealed her genitalia throughout these sections, in accordance with her own cultural norm of modesty. She steadfastly refused to remove these even when offered money by one of the attending scientists. She was brought out as an exhibit at wealthy people's parties and private salons. In Paris, Sara Bartman's promoters did not need to concern themselves with slavery charges. Cries and Scully states, "By the time she got to Paris, her existence was really quite miserable and extraordinarily poor. Sara was literally treated like an animal. There is some evidence to suggest that at one point a collar was placed around her neck. At the end of her life, she was a prostitute and penniless." Sara Bartman died on the 29th of December 1815 around the age of 26 of an undetermined inflammatory ailment, possibly smallpox, while other sources suggest she contracted syphilis or pneumonia. Cuvier conducted a dissection but no autopsy to inquire into the reasons for Sara's death. French anatomist Henri Maria de Crotet de Blainville published notes on the dissection in 1816, which were republished by Georges Cuvier in the Memo du Muséum d'Histoire Naturelle in 1817. Cuvier, who had met Bartman, notes in his monograph that its subject was an intelligent woman with an excellent memory, particularly for faces. In addition to her native tongue, she spoke fluent Dutch, passable English, and a smattering of French. He describes her shoulders and back as graceful, arms slender, hands and feet as charming and pretty. He adds she was adept at playing the Jew's harp, could dance according to the traditions of her country, and had a lively personality. Despite this, Cuvier interpreted her remains in accordance with his theories on racial evolution as evidencing ape-like traits. He thought her small ears were similar to those of an orangutan and also compared her vivacity when alive to the quickness of a monkey. He was part of a movement of scientists who were aiming to codify a hierarchy of races with the white man at the top. St. Hilaire applied on behalf of the Muséum d'Histoire Naturelle to retain her remains. Cuvier had preserved her brain and genitalia and skeleton on the grounds that it was on a singular specimen of humanity and therefore of special scientific interest. The application was approved and Sara's skeleton and body cast were displayed in museum. Her skull was stolen in 1827 but returned a few months later. The restored skeleton and skull continued to arouse the interest of visitors until the remains were moved to the Musée de Homme when it was founded in 1937 and continued up until the late 1970s. Her body cast and skeleton stood side by side and faced away from the viewer, which emphasized her steatopygia, accumulation of fat on the buttocks, while reinforcing that aspect as the primary interest of her body. The Sara Bartman exhibit proved popular until it elicited complaints for being a degrading representation of women. The skeleton was removed in 1974 and the body cast in 1976. From the 1940s, there were sporadic calls for the return of her remains. A poem written in 1978 by South African poet Diana Ferros, herself of Khoisan descent, entitled "I Have Come to Take You Home," played a pivotal role in spurring the movement to bring Bartman's remains back to our birth soil. The case gained worldwide prominence only after American paleontologist Stephen Jay Gould wrote The Measure of Man in the 1980s. Mansell Upham, a researcher and jurist specializing in colonial South African history, also helped spur the movement to bring Sara's remains back to South Africa. After the victory of the African National Congress (ANC) in the 1994 South African general election, President Nelson Mandela formally requested that France returns the remains. After much legal wrangling and debates in the French National Assembly, France acceded to the request on 6th of March 2002. Her remains were repatriated to her homeland. the Gamtus Valley on 6th of May 2002, and they were buried on 9th of August 2002 on Vegadering Scoop, a hill in the town of Hanki, over 200 years after her birth. Sara Bartman became an icon in South Africa as representative of many aspects of the nation's history. The Sara Bartman Center for Women and Children, a refuge for survivors of domestic violence, opened in Cape Town in 1999. South Africa's first offshore environmental protection vessel, the Sara Bartman, is also named after her. On 8th of December 2018, the University of Cape Town made the decision to rename Memorial Hall at the center of the campus to Sara Bartman Hall. This follows the earlier removal of Jameson from the former name of the hall. Honestly, I don't know what to say. After going through this, I don't know whether to cry or to be proud. But I think it is really a privilege to have learned about this story, about this woman. I can't imagine what she actually went through, but it must have been devastating. I just can't imagine it. But honestly, first of all, Africans, we are beautiful, we are powerful, we are strong, we are everything. We make the world a place for everyone to live. And I think Sara Bartman was a special kind. She was a powerful woman, beautiful woman, and she deserves more honor than anyone else. And I really hope that we stand up and stand our ground and stay firm, strong, so that, of course, something like this will never happen again. I really don't know what to say, but I hope you guys have learned so many things about the beauty of Africans and how we were treated in the 19th century. My name is Adenike Janet, and this is SUNDOS Communication. Stay safe and stay tuned for more episodes. We're going to be talking about African, and we're going to be learning a lot about our heritage. So you be safe, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and share with your friends and families. Follow our platforms on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Next time.